when you hear the sound of that bell, you know that you are in the championship rounds. And I got some real different kind of sparring today. I got my partner out of Tejas, MC Cordero. All right. She's here to talk boxing with me. So introduce yourself and tell the people where they can find you.
Thank you so much for having me, King. My name is MC. You can find me on my Instagram on MC_in-the-ring. And that's also my handle on Twitter. And I've been podcasting for maybe about a month or two, but I've been a boxing fan ever since I was a kid. I grew up in Mexico, moved to America when I was 9 years old. And my father was a big boxing fan. I remember growing up watching like Mike Tyson, and he even into the Mayweather area. And he was a big Tito Trinidad fan also. That's also why, like, this weekend we had Puerto Rican practically royalty, Amanda Serrano, and it's so amazing to see a lot of those Puerto Rican fighters exceeding even more than they've had in the past couple of years since someone like Tito Trinidad.
Well, let me ask you, because you bring up some great points. Who was your favorite? Who was the first fighter that kind of hooked you in? Because sometimes we got boxing in the background, but it's that one fight where we turn to the TV and we say, I'm going to watch this one. Who was that fighter for you?
I think in my early 20s, it was mainly Triple G. I started watching Triple G and Chocolatito when he kind of had first came to America and started having those HBO Friday nights. And remember, so I remember that a lot, but even at that time, there wasn't anybody like Floyd.
Sure.
You know, and I think now I always tell people, like, boxing is back. Every weight class out there is pretty much stacked, where we are going to see amazing fights in the next upcoming years. And we've already started to kind of see that. And some casuals are now even coming back for other fighters, not just people like Canelo. They're coming back for now Ryan Garcia and Tank.
Sure.
I had coworkers that I've never seen them really talk about fights or watch fights. They were watching Ryan Garcia or Tank Davis because they bring that excitement, and it's going to be a mixture of a lot of different fan bases. So I hope it happens. I don't know if it's going to happen, but I hope it does.
No, definitely. There's a lot of great fights to look for. And let's look at a fighter that's kind of, we want to see, is he going to push his way into the discussion? Because when we talk about the future of boxing, we're always going to mention Ryan. We mention Tank immediately. Exactly. We pay attention to Devin Haney now that he's kind of moved into this ascension. Is Shakur Stevenson, in your opinion, did he provide enough of a performance, and is he making that movement in that direction?
I feel like Shakur Stevenson has already provided enough to be in that conversation, just because if you look at his record, and me, I'm a person that always looks at data. Like, what has he proven himself? And I believe that he has proven himself even more than some fighters that were mentioned in those higher categories in the 135 division. He's already a unified champion at 130. He was a silver Olympian that a lot of these other guys didn't go to the Olympics. Shakur Stevenson went to the Olympics, and that is one of the reasons that I always saw him as a huge professional.
Sure.
I felt that I couldn't believe, and I was so shocked that he couldn't make weight. And there's so much controversy behind that. To me, it wasn't necessarily that he was going to lose this fight. That was never really in my mind. And maybe if he would have exhausted himself to lose those extra 1.6, which is kind of a lot, maybe that would have been more of a higher possibility. But Shakur Stevenson knows better than that. So I don't think he was going to let that affect him. He went in there, did what he had to do in these specific fights. Other fighters like Tank have also had questionable performances. Shakur's not the only one. So to me, at this point, now that I look at all these guys like Haney, Tank, Ryan's also had questionable fights. So has Haney. But if you were to compare them to where we are now, the person that had the best performance last was Devin Haney. And if you were to compare his previous performances, has gotten better and better and better. Now, is Shakur gonna maybe get better next fight? Yes, I will bet the house on that, because he is a professional. He is still a professional. So, and Ryan also, look at his last fight that Ryan had, and then his next fight was better. they all know that it's about to get crazy in the 135. That's why I wasn't necessarily, maybe as a fan, that upset that Tank couldn't make weight. I'm sorry, that Shakur couldn't make weight. I was more like shocked, but now I'm just like, let's get it at 135. He's really, again, he's a silver medalist. Like, you can't forget that.
No,
So
definitely.
I think, yeah, for sure.
This was literally like a growing pain. And you made such a great point about all these fighters. They kind of have this moment to where, whether it's the body or mind or the combination of the two, they have to move on from the division. And sometimes it looks sloppy. Now, Devin has never really had that concern, but I know the Mariaga fight, people question, you know, did he get rocked? How's his chin? But
Yes.
then with the performance against Kambosos, to the point that we were saying, why even have the rematch? We know that he's in that alignment. We know what Tank has been doing recently. He's in that alignment. And now we find in Shakur finding himself also in that alignment. So I'm with you. The potential of the fights we can see, and he said it himself, put their name on a contract and I'm willing to sign it. He's okay with fighting Loma, but knowing Top Rank, and I would be okay with it, you know, they'll give him well, these guys have moved on to 135, but you know, they got some people on the roster that, you know, I don't know if they'll move them up to 35 to accommodate, but I don't know if they'll do Loma Shakur right away, even though if that fight is on the table, I would love to see that.
I think there's so many fights to be made just within the 130, 135 in the Top Rank stable, where they don't have to go out and reach for other opponents. However, my question is Haney going to sign an extension with his current Top Rank promoter? Right now, he only owes him one more fight. I personally see Devin Haney stopping Kambosos. I don't see him, and I think that's the type of statement that Haney needs to make, and he knows that, in order for people to stop saying that he's pillow-fisted or all these other things that they go that he's boring. I mean, at the end of the day, he's winning every round. So what else do you want, right? And they're not even questionable rounds, right? So I think that it all depends, is Haney going to extend his contract with Top Rank? And I think if he's not, then Shakur Haney will happen. Because of the fact that Bob has a higher possibility of keeping the belts in the Top Rank arena or in the Top Rank umbrella instead, and then fighting him against Loma, and now finally crowning Shakur as the pound per pound king that he says one day he will be. Absolutely. And you know, people love having Lomachenko in their pound per pound list. So that's the type of win that both Devin and Shakur need in order to put themselves up there. Because I also find it extremely disrespectful that they don't have Devin Haney in the pound per pound. Because you know, if that would have been Teofimo, he would have been on the pound per pound list. So let's keep it consistent. Like, you can't be doing that. And that also makes me question, maybe Top Rank knows that they're not going to keep Devin Haney. That's why they're not giving more extra publicity that they should already be giving him.
Great point, because, you know, Bob Arum, once he sees that the fighter's on his way out or moving his direction, we see Manny Pacquiao have that struggle for years. That's what the whole controversy for a lot of people, the Tim Bradley decision, was about. Manny Pacquiao was about to leave his contract and all this speculation. And then this very curious decision happened. So, I mean, you're on fire. You're on fire. I can't deny it.
Thank you.
Speaking of making statements, Joe Joyce made a big statement yesterday in the heavyweight division against Joseph Parker, a guy that's never been stopped. What do you think about the fight, the win, and how that impacts the rest of the division?
I think Joe Joyce, again, he had to win in an impactful way in order for him to even be considered up there. And there's so many heavyweight champs right now that are waiting for fights or that are going to be fighting soon, and you're going to know, okay, what's going to happen next. We have Tyson Fury, who I don't know what's up with that guy. Like, is he going to be fighting soon? Now he's saying they have till Monday to decide on the Joshua fight, right? So right now, after the statement that was made last night, now Joe Joyce is now in line to fight either Tyson Fury. If Tyson Fury decides, I mean, you saw what Tyson Fury seen in ringside.
Yeah.
So that, if that wasn't an indication of what's the future, maybe I don't know what is, right? So the fact that he was sitting there, maybe that's an indication that that's a fight that's going to happen. We know that Tyson Fury, or at least it's rumor that Tyson Fury cannot travel to the USA right now. So I don't see anything else happening here as far as Tyson Fury fighting in America. So that is a fight that could be made. They will sell that out at any stadium that they put it. People love Tyson Fury, and for every reason. He was the undisputed champion at the heavyweight. He's done a lot for them. I mean, he beat Wilder almost 3 times. He couldn't beat him, right? So he has put his name up there. So I do believe that that fight is more likely what we're gonna end up getting, because Joshua doesn't seem to just want to sign the fight. And I mean, should he? I don't know, right? He keeps saying he wants it by December. He wants to fight a certain date, and Joshua is like, I don't know if I want to fight by that date. So yeah, yes,
Joshua want to fight in December, but he don't know if he want to fight the 6th or the 13th. It's a week apart. It's 2 weeks apart. I mean, listen. I mean, you know, that part is murky. The speculation for Fury is that he's supposed to fight, I think, Maurice Wach, or Bach. You know, and I, you know, I don't like that fight, but Fury, I'll give him a pass in that he's had the right of way with what he's done. He's going to play his games. I think he was trying to bait, you know, Joshua in, and if that fight could happen, then, you know, they just walk out the way as a mandatory or however that works out. But as far as Joe Joyce in that statement, I started thinking about UK fights, and I said, now I wouldn't mind seeing Dillian White and Joe Joyce.
That would be another good test for Joe Joyce, but I think that Joe Joyce, I believe he's like 25, right? He's more, I think at this point, he's already chasing a world champion.
Sure.
So I think maybe Dillian White, yes, could give him a little bit more experience and something else that could maybe even prepare him a little bit better for when the time comes to fight someone like Tyson Fury. And if you think about it, Tyson Fury is also trying to fight right now, because I do believe that maybe he wants to officially and for reals retire soon. I don't know, but he kind of seems like he's interested in getting some bags lately. I don't know.
Yeah. You know, and he's looking for that big fight. So of course, that's why he's calling for Joshua. Maurice Wach ain't really a bag, you know, but you know, we got to be careful, because, you know, Tyson Fury, you know, he like to play head games, you know, so we can't listen to everything he says. On that card too, you know, well, the Joe Joyce and Parker card, we had Amanda Serrano. You talked about it earlier. What do you think about that performance? I enjoyed it very much. She was very dominant. Mahfoud came back a little bit in the later rounds, and I don't know if that was out of boredom or, you know, fatigue, but what do you think about yesterday's performance for Serrano?
I think Amanda Serrano had a great performance. I think she's a great boxer. I don't ever expect to not see her do well, at least not in the next few years. She still has a long career to go, right? I think that she was making some of the same mistakes that she made against Katie Taylor.
Yeah.
I also feel that there was a reason why she was on this undercard of this fight. She was I believe that she was on this undercard to see how well she could sell and market in the UK.
I agree.
To see where that possible next fight could be. They already sold out the Madison Square Garden in America. Where else can we see these two amazing, great fighters fight next? And I think UK could probably give them the most money next to Saudi Arabia, which we know that Middle East, we cannot compete with the Middle East, right? So I think that Amanda Serrano was there. They were measuring out to see how well she could sell. And I think maybe Amanda maybe felt that or knew that. So maybe she didn't take this fight as serious as she should have.
Yeah.
Again, I think she should have gotten her out of there a little bit earlier in the fight, which then allowed her opponent to gain some gas, like you said, and kind of started coming back towards the end, towards the later rounds, right? And again, these rounds go fast. They're only 2 minutes. So you're like, you gotta get in there and do whatever you need to do. Is Katie Taylor, I do know that the last performance, for some Katie Taylor's fans, this performance, Amanda Serrano's performance, only gave them and said, yeah, Katie Taylor did definitely win that fight. Because you still talk to some fans and they still think that fight was questionable. Katie Taylor is going to be coming back soon too. And we're also going to be looking at her performance to see, is she going to get better for when that rematch happens? Because was it in the contract that there is a rematch, or is that something more that they just shook on it there on stage?
Yeah, it seems like it was an agreement that they kind of, wanted to honor, but I don't think it was contractual. Like if it one of those things, like if it makes sense, let's revisit this. But I think Serrano, like you said, she's out there kind of getting some feelers on her own, dignitary tour, try to see what the business is like over there. And I think too, if there's another good fight out there at featherweight, she take it. Now, this was, I mean, credit to Mahfoud. This was a unification. She was a champion, you know. So I don't want anybody to get it twisted, but you very good point about this being kind of more fuel to the type of fighter that Taylor is. She can steal, a la Ray Leonard. She can steal a little flash and flash, steal the last little bits of the round, while Serrano's kind of looking to, sit down on the punches and hit you with something a little bit more thudding. And I think she's got to change that in order to sustain a little bit more activity to the later rounds. So that way there's no question. She doesn't leave any questions on the table, right?
I like that they're allowing some fights to happen in between the rematch. I think it's only going to make the rematch better. And it's like this time around, they could have given us a draw. Think about it. They could have given us a draw this time around. And they chose not to because they're like, we're not going to do this to women's boxing. The first big fight that they have, we're going to give a draw. They're going to be like the judges, no. So this time around, we might get a draw, which might even push to a trilogy. And again, they deserve to get paid 3 times around if that's what it takes, as long as they continue to give us great fights, which the first fight was fight of the year up to this point.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of getting paid, this man is good at getting paid, and you mentioned him as being one of the guys you paid a lot of attention to. Floyd Mayweather fought this weekend. It kind of went under the radar under all of this stuff, of course, because it's an exhibition. It's not real boxing, right?
Yes.
But I had a particular issue. But first, I want to know, did you catch any of it, or did you see any of the highlights about it or at all?
I did watch the highlights and I was aware of the event. Of course, there was a lot of Twitter going on around saying, I mean, if I can get paid $20 million to fight for 9 minutes, I'm down. And you cannot blame Floyd. Like I said, he's always down to get the bag. That's at the end of the day, that's his end goal. I did see that he lasted 3 rounds and that it was only a 3-round fight. And that, of course, Floyd was getting touched up. I saw the highlights where he was getting touched up, and then he came back and knocked out the guy. And then the flower commotion happened where some guy brought out flowers and threw them in the floor, and Floyd picked them up. Like, it was just, again, Floyd is the most entertaining fighter still to this day. And there was a lot of talks. Even Manny Pacquiao was there at the event. Did you see that?
Yeah. Speculation.
I smell a rematch of that, actually.
Yeah, and going back to the flower debacle, first of all, his bodyguard, the one that got physical at the press conference, he met his demise. He got stopped in his bout.
Yes, I saw that too.
So that was a bit of karma right there. Now, I believe, this is just me, I believe that they asked Floyd to carry this guy a few rounds. The guy went out there and got overzealous. Floyd said, yeah, I got you. Remember what he did with his man in Saudi Arabia? He was commentating and fighting and carrying on, putting on a real show. I believe that they asked him to do something similar, carry this guy. The guy got out of hand and didn't understand he was being carried and hit Floyd with something that Floyd didn't like and said, and done him up, right? And just so they get mad and they're like, yo, now not only did you do this to my nephew, we're never inviting you back. And threw the flowers on the ground.
Wow.
Just my mind. Don't listen to me. I'm just some guy.
So, but that guy is the uncle of the fighter.
Yes.
Wow. Love it. I mean, there's memes that's gonna be a meme forever now.
Absolutely.
For like people that don't like Floyd, they're gonna like, but hey, Floyd picked it up. Even Inoue retweeted it. Did you see that?
Yeah.
And Inoue was like, everyone needs to apologize for Floyd Mayweather for what this person did to him. So I love Inoue. He's totally on my pound for pound. I think he's amazing.
Very classy guy. Very classy.
Yes.
So, well, let's talk about some fights that, are coming up. They're not coming up this week, but they're coming up in a few weeks. We're talking about Eubank Jr. and Conor Ben. You got a dog in that fight? What do you think of that one?
I think it's a great match. And I think I love Conor Benn. He's been one of my top fighters, even earlier in his career. We've been watching him, and I loved his last performances have been amazing. He was able to get Chris Algieri earlier than Chris Algieri beat Pacquiao. You know, that was like a great performance. So whenever Conor Benn knocked him out earlier in the fight, he basically put out a statement and said, look, I am not just some spoiled brat who my father happens to be one of the best British fighters.
Absolutely.
I am here to stay and I am working hard. And you can tell that man works hard. He's always at the gym. He's also a family man. So I think that he's taking this fight very, very seriously. I think that they're both gonna get paid decent amount of money. So I think Chris Eubank should also take. Now, I don't think Chris Eubank is taking this fight as serious as he should be. I think he's relying kind of more on his talent to maybe, or his size, because he's gonna have a size advantage. But I think that Conor's Benn power can maybe carry up to already 154 if he wanted to.
Yeah.
So the fact that Conor Benn's not fighting at 154, it's not because he wouldn't be successful there. It's really because he wants to stay at the 147 weight class, which is where majority of the money's made. Sure. If you think about it from the smaller besides heavyweight.
It's a glamour division.
Classes, right? Yes, of course. So I think that's why he stayed there. I think, again, I wouldn't be like extremely shocked if something happens in this fight somehow comes off. For whatever reason, you just don't know, right? Especially with the father recently, Chris Eubank's father was like, I don't want him fighting anymore. And Chris Eubank's like, no, the fight's still on, don't worry. I hope nothing like that happens as we get closer. I see Conor Benn being victorious here, maybe even getting him out in the later rounds, right? Stopping him. His father will stop the fight if it gets bad. I do think that Chris
would that be because of the weight clause on Eubank, the stoppage, or just because of just the sheer power and the bad intentions that we know Conor Benn has?
I think Conor Benn right now, we are underrating him, and we might have overrated Chris Eubank a little bit. You see what I'm saying?
Fair.
I personally, the fight that I would have liked to see Conor Benn have would have been against Virgil Ortiz. That would have been a pay-per-view event.
There we go.
I would have flown to England to support Virgil Ortiz as a Texas, fan. Absolutely. I love Virgil Ortiz, and I think that what I would love to see after Conor Benn defeats Chris Eubank is have Virgil Ortiz fly over to England, Errol Spence, Kell Brooks style, and defeat Conor Benn in England. The winner of that deserves a shot at the undisputed champion at the 147 weight class, if that has already happened by then.
Excellent.
Those are the fights that now we can see.
Yeah.
And check this out. If Conor Benn beats our Mexican champion here, we are going to have to start looking at Conor Benn and start putting some respect to that name, especially when he comes over to America, right?
He can earn the fans' respect, especially in Texas. Texas is his own country. When you get the Texas on your side, you can ride.
Or even lead us to a rematch. And that's something that, and where the rematch, they could have it at the Cowboys Stadium. Virgil Ortiz has already been known to be liked or supported by Jerry Jones, who is the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. So they could definitely have some type of a showdown like that. Maybe even get Errol Spence later on. The sky's the limit, and I think Conor Benn knows that. And I think this is it's going to be his biggest performance. And I think Chris Eubank I think his time, he should have done that. He already had that opportunity with Billy Joe Saunders.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, and I mean, since then, again, the same way we could see so much for Ben, at least he should have ventured towards, the fight with Andrade. Both these guys have been doing nothing at 160 forever. That should have been a fight between those two guys. It should have happened. He might have begged for Triple G, but of course Triple G was bag chasing. But again, the outcome of that Ben Eubank fight, there's still a lot on the table, and I think there's a lot of upside, win or lose, for Ben, perhaps more so than there is for Eubank. Speaking of upside, what do you think about Sebastian Fundora? He's got a bout coming up again in a few weeks. Sebastian Fundora versus Carlos Ocampo. What do you think about that fight in Fundora and where he stands at 154?
I think Sebastian Fundora is again, like Terrence Crawford called him, he's like a cheat code in a video game. The guy has an 80-inch reach, which is unheard of unless you're a heavyweight fighter, right? So, and I
6'3".
I also think he's I think he's extremely disciplined. And I think that right now his main priority is to become a world champion. He's currently the interim champion, right? I do believe that he's the interim champ right now, but I do think he wants to be a world champion, right? So I think he's in a hard weight class. 154 is another amazing weight class, not only because of the current competition that you have there, but also because of the fighters that are surrounding. Yes. For example, Conor Ben, you have Terrence Crawford, who has already said, hey, I'm going up there, Charlo, and I'm coming for you. So
Earl's
we also have
flirted at that as well.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot, right? Let's say Virgil Ortiz decides I can no longer make 147. I'm going up to 154. The weight is too much on me, right? So there's a lot in 154. If Sebastian Fundora has an extremely amazing performance against Ocampo, who the measuring stick there will be Errol Spence. Errol Spence got him out of there in the first round. However, he did get wobbled a little bit by Spence, right? Spence wobbled him a little bit, or the other way around, right? Sure. So he does have some power. Maybe that's what he decided. I'm gonna go try my luck at 154 if I can carry my power up, right? So Sebastian Fundora should be able to get him out of there because he hasn't really had any hard opposition after the Errol Spence fight. But Fundora is still young. We still don't know what type of hurdles he's gonna go through and all that, right? Especially with his body height. Yeah. Is he going to be struggling to make 154? That's been a question that fans have had. He's too big. How is he making 154? He said, I think he said it even on a show with Ness on the Boxing Boys. Y'all don't need to be worrying about how I'm making weight. As long as I'm doing my job and I'm being a professional about it, that's all that y'all should be matter. And my performances are showing that. And I think he comes from a family who is very united. His sister is also going to be in the undercard of that. Mm-hmm. I think it's a family affair. So they're going to ensure that each other and checking each other to make sure that they need to do whatever they're going to do. So I'm excited to see Fundora fighting the rest of the 154 champions. I don't know if he'll get a shot at the belts. Again, Charlo is already going to be fighting Taizu in January. That's scheduled to be happening. People are thinking, why is it so late? I think Taizu has an injury in his hand or wrist, which is the reason why that fight is so out in the year. So all he can really do right now at this point is continue to work on his game, right? Yeah, definitely. And I hope that at some point, Charlo doesn't kind of send him through the ringer. He doesn't say, nah, you got to fight Castaño before you can get to me. Nah, you got to fight this one before you can get to me. I hope that, there's more of a clear path. And I've always loved Jermell Charlo because at 154, whenever there's a question about him, he come back and he right all his wrongs. And I love that about him. So, 154 is another division that, we're excited to see the young guys, get their proper due and the older lions hold it down. Yeah, I love the 154. It's probably one of my favorites. We were actually at the fight where Jermell fought Charlo and became the undisputed champion in LA, and it was one of the best events we've ever been at. We were so excited. We were not really rooting for each side. We were just like, they're gonna give us a great event, and they did. Absolutely. Well, listen, we've come to the close of this thing right here. What I want you to do is tell the people one more time where they can find you, please. Thank you again so much for having me. You can follow me on my Instagram and my Twitter, both MC_in-the-ring, and you can find the link to our YouTube channel there, so you can make sure and subscribe. Thank you again for having me. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, championship rounds, MC Cordero. It was a pleasure. We out of here. Thank you.